Welcome, everybody, to the Big Book Roundtable and the RICO 12 family of recovery resources. We are targeting people from all backgrounds, faiths, denominations, places, whatever, dealing with addictions and all manifestations of the disease of alcoholism. We're a resource for anybody who's seeking a solution to a problem that just seems to baffle them. I'm Justin B. I am a child of an all-powerful and perfectly loving God and a multidisciplinary addict living in the miracle of recovery here in the Spokane, Washington area, and I'm grateful to be joined by David G. and Nikki M. Let's take a minute and have each of them introduce themselves. David, why don't you say hi and introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. My name is David G. I am an alcoholic addict of many sorts living in Oklahoma in the USA. I've been given the gift of recovery on August 8th of 1994, and I'm super grateful to be here with you and Miss Nikki. Always my favorite time of the week, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, David. Miss Nikki, you're up.
Oh, I love you guys. Hi, I'm Miss Nikki M, and I'm just grateful to be with my chosen family at the table. I'm a grateful member of many, many fellowships, and I came in the rooms 13 years ago, and I can't go anywhere because this lifestyle is for me. So grateful to see my favorite guys at the table.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Thank you, Nikki. Happy to have you both here. And as we've done in this series we've been meeting together for over a year, well over a year, I think. Almost 2 years, I think, is what we've been doing. And this is awesome. I'm loving it. We're diving line by line, deep diving in the big book, line by line through the big book. And we are going to continue in chapter 7, working with others today, starting on page 92. And it starts with a paragraph that's continue to speak of alcoholism. And we're just going to read that one paragraph, but it splits between 92 and 93. Get your big book out, get highlighter, pen, paper, notes, and get ready to get in here and not only learn, but then apply these principles in all your affairs. All right, I'm going to get into reading. Here we go. Continue to speak of alcoholism as an illness, a fatal malady. Talk about the conditions of body and mind which accompany it. Keep his attention focused mainly on your personal experience. Explain that many are doomed who never realize their predicament. Doctors are rightly loath to tell alcoholic patients the whole story unless it will serve some good purpose. But you may talk to him about the hopelessness of alcoholism because you offer a solution. You will soon have your friend admitting that he has many, if not all, of the traits of the alcoholic. If his own doctor is willing to tell him that he is alcoholic, so much the better. Even though your protege may not have entirely admitted his condition, he has become very curious to know how you got well. Let him ask you that question, if he will. Tell him exactly what happened to you. Stress the spiritual feature freely. If the man be agnostic or atheist, make it emphatic that he does not have to agree with your conception of God. He can choose any conception he likes, provided it makes sense to him. The main thing is that he be willing to believe in a power greater than himself and that he live by spiritual principles. All right, so in that one paragraph, we've got some deep diving to do here, and I'd like to start off with you, David. Why don't you take us through that and share your experience, strength, and hope on it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Justin, for your service. And, remember, guys, if you're listening to this today, that we are still in the first visit. We've not even made it to the second one yet. So there's a lot of instructions here that I continue to try to live by as I work with others and practice the principles in all of my affairs. One of the things that I'm going to do as I'm talking with a person is I'm going to continue to speak of alcoholism as an illness. Our book doesn't call it a disease. I don't fight that concept anymore. It doesn't matter to me what you call it, but the book calls it an illness. It says it's a fatal malady, not a spiritual malady. We've read about the spiritual malady, the fatal malady. But here's one of the things that I always look at, because I always tell people my spirit is not sick. And I've had people in the rooms flare up, bow up, be upset about that statement. But this sentence says it all. Talk about the conditions of the body and of the mind. Remember, page 23 of our book says the main problem the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. And so, I have people challenge me on that all the time because they want to go back to page 67 of the book to where it says that it's a spiritual malady, a spiritual disease. And that's true. But from everything that we've read from the day that we started this, we found that we were spiritually sick because of a human condition, self. Now, once that's overcome, it says that we straighten out mentally and physically. So I want to keep my conditions focused mainly on the body and on the mind. I want to keep his attention focused mainly on my experience, not my knowledge, not what I think I know, not what I have heard in the meeting that's really cool to go tell him, but I want to talk about my own personal experience. I like it says, explain that many are doomed who never realize their predicament, even in our rooms. He had me to write that. My guy had me to write that above that sentence, even in the rooms of AA. And that's scary because a lot of people just go to meetings and don't drink, just go to meetings, don't act out. Well, I mean, that's more restriction than it is recovery. And if you're able to do that, good for you. But for me, I want to recover here. It says doctors are rightly loath to tell alcoholics patient the whole story unless it'll serve some good purpose. But you may talk to him about the hopelessness of alcoholism. That's step one. Because you offer a solution. That's step two. What a beautiful gift we have been given as hopeless addicts and alcoholics in our worst and darkest days. We never thought that we would offer a solution that doctors and psychiatrists can't. And it's just baffling. So you'll soon have your friend admitting, and if you have him admitting some of these, he's already on his way to step one. He may not be there yet, but he's on his way. If not all the traits of an alcoholic, if he admits to all of them, then he has taken the first step, at least as far as admitting it. If his own doctor is willing to tell him that he's an alcoholic, so much the better, even though you're protege. And remember on page 90, we seen that word show up. He may not have entirely admitted his condition. At least he's part of the way there. He's become very curious to know how, and I love to underline, highlight, circle how you got well. Promise. Because you will hear it in the rooms over and over. We don't get well here. Oh, I guess you went out and got well, huh? Well, according to my book, if I follow the directions up to this point, damn right, I got well. And so, not saying that I won't ever get sick again if I rest on my laurels and go back to sleep in the fellowship, because I've done that. But trust me, if we do what it's asking us to do here, exactly how it's asking us to do here, we damn sure get well. And that's just, either that or my book's a liar, one of the two. And so I'm going to go with the book. So let him ask you that question, if he will. Tell him exactly what happened to you. And I'm not talking about all the times I laid drunk in the alley and pissed in the water fountain at the hospital. And we're not talking about stuff like that. I want to tell him exactly what happened to me inside of the rooms. By not going through the process, listen to people say, just go to meetings and don't drink or don't use or don't eat or whatever it is. Yeah, tell him what happened to you as a result of that. Stress the spiritual feature freely. I talk about bottoming out at 25 years sober on every occasion that I go speak. I tell exactly what happened to me. I like it says, if the man be agnostic or atheist, make it emphatic. He does not have to agree with your conception of God. Thank God, because the guy that took me through this work, he was a Christian. I was not at that time. I was not. It says he can choose any conception he likes, but there's a condition, provided that it makes sense to him. So the main thing is that he be willing to believe in a power greater than self. That's step two. And if you remember on page 47, that's where we were first introduced to that concept. And there's more, not just to believe. Most people think, in most churches, this is why I could never get it, because the ones I went to said, all you need to do is believe. Your sins are wiped away, never to be remembered again. Well, that's not been my story. Belief is only the second principle here. There are 10 more after that. And it says here, he'd be willing to believe in a power greater than himself. And this one word changes that entire sentence. And so that means there's more, that he'd be willing to live by spiritual principles. And so for me, that's more than just a belief. A belief without any action is just a belief, and it's worthless. It's in my experience anyway. So that's my take on the paragraphs you read there in my experience. So thank you, Justin.
Yeah, thank you, David. And I have a question for you that I'll get to here in a minute. But first, I want to hear about how Nikki goes through this paragraph and what sticks out to her.
Well, thank you so much. And David went through it, word by word, so I don't need to do that. But I do speak of alcoholism. See, I'm not an alcoholic. And a lot of my friends want me to have a sober date because I'm in the rooms of AA. And that's not fair to people who are real alcoholics like our friend David G. Because I can take it or leave it. So I can go in there and pick up a 30-year chip or whatever, 30-day chip. It's not fair to the person who can't put it down. So I speak of alcoholism, which includes, and I always talk about it, drugs, sugar, food, gambling, sex, love, fantasy, overworking, scrolling your life away, electronic media, self-harm, anorexia, overspending, debting, under-earning, you under-earners, hoarding. That's part of alcoholism. Oh, I need hoarders. I need another. No, you need the big book and you need one room with a really strong message of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I like to speak about the disease of alcoholism because many of my friends, I love David G's story, are dying sober. They're just dying sober. They're just not drinking, not watching porn, not eating sugar, and they're not living. I mean, it is fatal to live like that because it's just a matter of time before you literally go insane. And so I love that. The focus should be on my personal experience. And my personal experience is that I'm born into the disease of alcoholism. I have 2 stepfathers dead from this disease. 2. That doesn't include my real biological father, okay? Like this goes deep. So my personal experience, and I pretty much keep it simple a lot of the time when I'm talking to new prospects, is I was going to kill myself and kill my lover. Oh, and I have a nice house and good kids and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, me too. The Me Too movement. So what I'll also say to people, speak in I statements. That's a real helpful thing. Like, not only do we learn life skills through this design for living, but we literally learn how to walk through the world. And if I'm in a meeting, I don't say, you should. I'm what happened when I statements, personal experience. And then it says, talk to me about the hopelessness of alcoholism. So if you're listening and it's 2025, please don't send people to other rooms. Please don't do that. Just open the big book and show them what's on these pages. Because if you're armed with the facts, you offer a solution. Why? I'm armed with the facts. The big book repeats itself a lot. I have all the traits of an alcoholic. I just don't drink. And Justin, I know, when it's the same for you. You've never even had your story is amazing. You've never had a drink, and we suffer the traits of an alcoholic. And the promises, got well, spiritual feature freely. This is a free program, everybody. I actually had to end a few relationships with people in the rooms because they're charging for meditation or they're charging for this. That's fine, but don't advertise it in a 12-step room where you got so freely the solution. I don't like that. I'm sorry if that's what you do, then I guess I need to go talk to my sponsor about my resentment towards people who come in and all of a sudden they're life coaches. You're just presenting the big book and it's free. And I love this. And the big book again repeats itself. Choose any conception. Isn't that what it says on page 12? Why don't you choose your own conception? And I usually give the conception of my God to my prospect. I'm like, this is my God. You can borrow it if you want. It's love. It's humility. It's responsibility. It's being kind. It's being loving. It's being forgiving. You want to borrow that God? Because I couldn't find God, a white guy in the sky, but you can borrow this spiritual principles in action. So, and I love this too, because it's like anyone is welcome here. We read it on page 28. It doesn't matter your religion, what your any spiritual practices. We just have to live by the spiritual principles. This is really radical. The main thing is that I be willing, line out every day. You don't get a day off here. Are you willing every day to have a new belief system, as David has drilled into me, and live, not just stop eating or stop watching porn. You're here to live by these principles. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Yeah, I've got a question for you too. I'm going to start back with David on this question, though. David, you mentioned, getting well as one of the promises of working the steps. Talk to us a little bit about the difference between getting well, being well, and being cured. What is the difference there, and what is your take on that?
Well, I think the difference is if I'm cured, there's no longer any work for me to do. I'm finished here. All I need to do is close this book, go live my life. But something starts happening to me. My mind starts drifting in places that it shouldn't be. I'm cured. I don't need step 10 anymore. I don't need to watch my thoughts, and I don't need to watch my actions, and I don't need prayer and meditation, and I don't need to work with others. I'm cured. But if I've gotten well, then I've got a way to show you how I done that. So not only that I'm well, that you can get well as well. And so for me, that's the difference between the two. Getting well doesn't mean, okay, I'm all better now. Just like my mother, 86 years old, broke her hip. She's getting well, but she's not cured at all. So, we've got a long way to go, and we're doing it a day at a time. But I can promise you, she has a whole new outlook on being well now. She just does. And when you go through this process, you begin to move away from that. You have to be very careful. A lot of people say we don't get well here. Well, there's no point in me being here if I can't get well, because that's the whole goal of this. And the way that I look at this is that, like I've just described, okay, now I'm well. I don't ever need to go back. That's it. We're finished. I'm done. If I think like that, that's not well thinking to begin with. The wellness of my thinking is, now how can I serve God, serve my brothers and sisters, and do everything I can to make sure his message through this big book gets out to the world. And over the last 6 years, I can definitely tell you that has happened more and more, and it's continuing to happen more and more. I'm all over the place now in person with these. So it's really good. I love it, so well, not cured. That's what I say. So thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, David. And I'm gonna follow up on this with Nikki, and maybe come back to you, David, after this for not a comeback, but a follow up. Nikki, I've heard you saying the Big Book says this. We're in the what is it? The grip of a progressive disease. We never get better. We get worse. I'm butchering the quote. Why don't you help me with the exact quote, and then talk to us about well and that, how those work together, getting well in that.
Okay, it's on page 30. We're in the grip of a progressive illness. I get worse, never better. Now, what does that look like? That means I have a daily reprieve. So it's like I fall asleep every night and I forget who I am. I forget. I got to wake up. We've talked about it before. It's Groundhog Day. Go watch the movie. Bill Murray. There's also 50 First Dates with Drew Barrymore, these Hollywood movies, if you're listening in another country, where they forget who they are and they have to wake up every day and remember. See, it says, even Godiva says, remember always, like that our sex powers are God-given. I don't remember that always. I only remember that if I'm on that page. So I'm in the grip of a progressive illness. My thinking gets worse, never better. So I have to every day wake up and take the prescription, which is an endless supply, and it's free. And I take endless supplies of trust, of forgiveness right now because I can't stand my neighbors. I take an endless supply of love, of compassion, because I want everyone to be like me. And they're not. You see, so I only get a daily reprieve. And when I do this more, to be honest, I wake up real quick and I remember who I am quicker. It just happens quicker because I'm here. So my muscle memory is not as bad. But if I take a day or two off, I forget who I am. All of a sudden.
Nikki, we lost you there for just a second. We got you. All of a sudden, why don't you come back in and finish up that thought?
all of a sudden I'm your wife, yours and David's wife. And then it's like, that's who I am. I forget that, no, I'm not. I'm your sister. I'm not supposed to be doing strange things with my brothers. And that's what happens. Oh, the internet, eat my soul, internet.
Thank you, Nikki. David, do you have any additional thoughts on that concept that you'd like to talk to us about?
Yeah, I think so, because whenever you read that concept in the book, over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. Now, this is talking about while we are in the illness. Remember that we are still very much talking about step one whenever you're in the chapter more about alcoholism, because you have moved from the doctor's opinion to the first three chapters of the book. That's all step one. And so, yes, if you continue to stay in step one, it does not have the power to get you well. It will get your ass drunk every time. Read page 8 of Bill's story, where quicksand stretched all around him. He had met his match. He'd been overwhelmed. Alcohol was his master. He took step one right there. Continue to read that story a little bit and see how he drank again. And that happened to me, and it's happened to many, many people I know. Depending on what your drink is, how many times have lust addicts returned to lust because, the power of the mind come back and convinced them. I know myself and my own experience with that. But whenever you get to where we were at today, page 93, I believe it was, that now you've had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. That's why we're in chapter 7. That's all about step 12. Now you have gotten well from a hopeless state of mind. You're not where you were at in step 1 and more about alcoholism. So that's the difference between the two as far as I'm concerned. Because when I'm there, yes, if I continue to stay there, I'm going to get worse and never better. Once I've gotten here, I'm not only better, hell, I'm well. So, but there's certain things I have to do to stay in that condition of mind. I'm not saying that's it, we're done. No, there are things that I must do to continue to live in the world of the spirit. And if I'm not doing those things, I'm not going to get to live there. I'm going to get to go away from there until I get willingness to come back there, provided I don't die in the meantime. So that's my take. Thank you.
No, that's really helpful. Thank you both for going through that. I think it was really helpful for me, and I think it's helpful for others to see that and see what's going on with that concept of getting well and the process of getting to that point. So let's go into takeaways. I'm going to start with you, Nikki. What's your takeaway from our conversation today?
Spiritual principles. That's it. I've got to live every day by the spiritual principles, and then I am free because I want to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. David, how about a takeaway for you?
Stress the spiritual feature freely. If I come in here and I talk to you about God and that offends you, that's your problem, not mine, because I'm not talking to you about how you must believe in God. I'm talking to you about my experience as a result of what God has done for me through this big book and through these 12 steps. I'm sharing my experience, strength, and hope. I'm not telling anyone what they have or they must do, but I will damn sure strongly suggest you better get into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And if anything, make it your God for a little while until you get a better idea. So stress that freely. Don't run from that concept. A lot of people do, but I don't. So that's my takeaway.
Yeah, thank you, David. And that's very close to my takeaway. And I had a real life experience yesterday with my takeaway. It's that another person's conception of God does not have to agree with mine. Just the main thing is that he'd be willing to believe in a power greater than himself and that he lived by spiritual principles. I talked to a man yesterday who was broken and stuck because he thought his conception of God was the only way and it just wasn't working. And I had the opportunity to talk about how I dealt with a very similar thing. And I just love applying these principles in all my affairs, no matter where I'm at, whether I'm in the community. And this is an invitation to you out there listening. Practice these principles in all your affairs, no matter where you're at. Community, work, church, wherever you're at, practice the principles. They fit into any and every situation. Anyways, keep coming back. Come continue to walk and trudge this adventurous and happy road of destiny. Work it. You are worth it.